You did the inverse trig ones. That's not on today's.
Text or whatever, and then I was like embarrassing myself because y'all are actually leaving tomorrow. But anyways, I'm gonna explain to her my situation, or like I just got. She doesn't care. So, I'm like this week is just confusing me because. I keep thinking it's like Tuesday, but no, it's Thursday, which I'm definitely okay with. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
So, how did you do on the application?
So I got like a 3 or 4. Well, I don't know if I was allowed to give myself a point on that first, like 3 points on the first question. I gave myself 2 points. I gave myself 2, but I don't know. I think I could have given myself 3. Yeah. You know we have a quiz.
Yeah.
Okay, just answer this first. Are we supposed to finish the one that we started like last class?
Yes. That's near the bottom there.
What is the circuit from last subject?
Oh.
Before next class. It's all typed up.
That's fine.
I've never made y'all turn anything in without typing it on the agenda. And I'll verbalize it, but Tardy Bell hadn't even run yet. So.
Have you looked over your MCQ and FAQ?
The MCQ, yeah.
Do you know what the percentage you can get on the MCQ to like people who are high? Yeah, that's so true.
All right, we're gonna start off with your mini quiz.
Well, I'm just trying to
So if you have binder notes out, I need you to clear that away.
You're right. Oh, you're right. Honestly, I could just turn it without. I don't think Jacob touched it. Oh, I'm so glad today's the last day of the week. Of the school week. It makes me so happy.
so much
Really? Honestly, I just have a lot of study.
You only had class like 2 days.
Huh?
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but
like 2
the
days.
teacher like assigned stuff to do over
Really? Really?
the Spanish
wait.
project. Spanish project.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Let's do next month. Let's do it Monday.
Huh?
Let's do it Monday. That's when you're presenting it. Like, I'm gonna be gone, but it's still Monday. That's what I mean. Like I have to do that entire thing. Like haven't even started there.
Okay, so you know, did you guys finish too? Yeah. Did you guys finish
Yeah.
Did you do that project?
Yes.
I'm literally using that template. Like I'm literally using I'm not.
That's a good idea, but it's too different to look at.
Well, no, it's actually so similar. It's actually really similar.
Girls,
Oh wait, oh my gosh.
we got a quiz. Okay, so it is still matching. It's questions from parts 1, 2, and 3. What I asked you to look back over. I did mean to put a couple of extra answers there for a little bit of a distractor since you've seen these exact questions before, but I forgot that part. So one question or one answer per question, everything goes in place once. But this will count as a couple major points instead of a handful of minor points. So. But this is number 125 for your binder. And I did not ask you to turn in your homework and your bell work because I thought you could just turn it in with your quiz. So your homework, again, I know I haven't seen y'all much lately, but your homework was to do follow through on one of those 6 FRQs, the one you did in class, and several of you turned that into Google Classroom already, but if you didn't, make sure that you turn that in with your name on it when you turn in your mini quiz. And then while you're working on that, let me just briefly, I've got a lot of small things to do. So we've got the mini quiz, turning in the mini quiz and homework, talk a little bit about AP test, some of the handouts you guys got. We're going to do a couple more mock exam questions and go over those. We're going to finish a circuit that you guys started on a few classes ago, and that will need to be turned in by next class, next Tuesday, so that one needs to be finished up. And then you can start on the circuits you picked up today. I don't expect you to get anywhere near finished on it. And of course, part of the mock exam, you will want your mock exam, so if you didn't see that under bell work to go pick that up, then please please grab that on your way back to your seat. just to be clear, when you turned in your mini quiz, if you were too busy focused on your quiz and you didn't hear me, make sure I also have your homework, which was the one FRQ. One of the 6 FRQs. And actually, I gave you time to do it in class. So, okay, now that we've got that done, so that's 1, 2, and 3 on our agenda. All right, so before we look at a couple more mock exam questions, I want to give you a little bit more information about the AP exam. So this will be my daily, try to scare you guys into studying a little bit. That's weird. Okay, so the first thing is I've got a short little slideshow to share with you. Some of this information is a little bit older, but I think it does give you guys some perspective about how many students normally pass the AP test worldwide, Fayetteville High School, all of that kind of stuff. Might be more information than you want to know, but part of why I take the time to gather this information and put it together is because our AP test is certainly not an automatic. You do need to study and you do need to give your best effort on the actual test. So down the left side is the pass rate for AP Calculus AB, specifically at Fayetteville High School. So I have no idea what happened in 2018, but 2021, you guys know what year that was? It wasn't the year that COVID started. It was the next year where it was virtual, hybrid classes and all that kind of stuff. So pretty low average there. But, you know, around 50-ish%, roughly, give or take. And this is my 4th year of teaching calculus, so I also put in my scores over there so you could see basically about the same. So, again, all I'm trying to get you to see is that if you don't study and if you don't also try your best on the AP test and you just think you're going to pass, that doesn't always happen. You have to put in some effort here. So here's worldwide for every year except 2021. I don't know if they had this information up there, but the main thing that you need to see here is that it's fairly consistent. So remember, our AP test is they scale the score. So if the average ends up being lower, they consider that to be a harder test, and then you need less points to pass it. If the average is higher, means it's an easier test and you need more points to pass it. But in general, this is about how it breaks down worldwide. Okay, this says last week, but this is actually not true. This was from a couple years ago. So these are a few things that I think you guys don't quite realize how close sometimes students are going to be. So again, I did this workshop 2 years ago. I just need to take off the word last week. And the guy who did it is one of the people who does a lot of grading for College Board. So he knows a lot of the statistics that don't show up, that are not advertised. And these were some of his quotes from the previous year. So, yeah. So he said half of the 2 scores would have been a 3 if they only scored 3 more points. So 3 more multiple choice, or just maybe 1 more section of one of the FRQs. And honestly, that's the thing that I worry about the most for you guys. Like, if, you know, I want you to do the best that you can, but I would just hate for you to barely get a 2 and almost have a 3, when maybe you could have, you know, checked some of your work with extra time, gone back and gave a little better explanations, checked your arithmetic, used your calculator to check stuff when you're allowed to, all that kind of stuff. That year before, when I did this, you only needed 11 more points to go from a 2 to a 4. So 11 points isn't nothing, but it's like less than 10 questions. So that's, again, pretty significant. And a lot of times the difference is the little bit of studying you do the week or 2 before, and then the day of the test, how focused you are and how hard you're working. Anything for a calculator FRQ, which is our first 2 FRQs, you need to make sure that you write down what you're putting in the calculator. That's considered showing your work. So if you know how to do it, you type it in the calculator, you get the answer, you write the answer down, the answer is correct, They're not going to give you any points for that. That's considered a bald answer. Anything you put in your calculator, write down on an FRQ. No justification explanation should be more than one sentence. The only reason I'm sharing that is sometimes you get kind of long-winded, and you want it to be short and sweet, concise, and then move on. If you think you need to justify it with more than a sentence or two, then you're probably on the wrong track. You're probably trying to justify it when you don't quite have your bases covered. Okay, and then on FRQs, you guys know that you can stop when you have a numerical answer, so you don't have to do any of the numerical arithmetic. So 3 plus 5, you do not have to change to 8. You can leave it to 3 plus 5. Now, if you have something like f of 1 plus 3, you do have to evaluate that. You have to figure out what f of 1 is. And of course, any calculus you actually have to do as well. According to this person, one FRQ is always a geometric graph, which is what we have been practicing quite a bit with those area ones. One of them is always considered a rate in, rate out. Again, I don't know that this is to be true. I don't know that this is guaranteed, but this is what he said. And again, he works closely with College Board. Always round to 3 decimal places unless you're told differently. And hopefully this comes up later. But sometimes in FRQs, they will tell you that a function is differentiable. Any function that's differentiable is guaranteed to be continuous, but a lot of times they will test you to see if you know that and if you state that. So the good rule of thumb is in an FRQ, if they say something's differentiable, just immediately say that it's because differentiable, it's also continuous. Differentiable, arrow, continuous. And if it's not needed, it didn't hurt anything, and sometimes it is needed to get the points. So, okay. And we're going to look at this each day, so we'll add to that.
Question.
Yeah.
So when you were saying, like on the calculator questions, like write out what you put in the calculator.
Yeah.
Should you, like if it's like a function fx, can you just say, oh, like an integrated f, or like do you need to,
If they
like,
defined
write
f
out?
of x, yes.
Okay.
If they said, yeah, that's fine.
Oh.
Now, if if you're doing integrating f of x minus g of x, you can just say that. You don't have to like write in what f of x is and write in what g of x is. But yes, that's encouraged. Okay, so then let's move on. So again, I'm going to share that a little bit every day, probably faster each day, but I think some of that is good for y'all to see how close sometimes students get, and they probably could have passed, but for whatever reason, they could have studied a little bit more, they could have tried a little bit harder on the AP exam. I just don't want you to fall in that boat. Okay, another handout that you guys got today is 126, and there's not anything I need you to fill out on this, but this is just kind of an assortment of different things that I think kind of help guide you the last couple weeks. So I'm not going to spend a lot of class time on it, but I do want to kind of point out some of the stuff that's on it so that you know when and where it might be helpful to you. So top of this, testing schedule, so you know what part of the test you do when if you didn't participate in the mock exam. Below that, it has all of the units, the major topics, and what percentage they are weighted on the AP exam. So those are a little bit scrambled, and I know it's a little bit small and kind of hard to read, but this was already a big printout, so I had to do the best I could. That continues on the next page. Then I typed up a couple of the main things I think you should consider studying. So first would be FRQs. Second, maybe some more of those AP live review videos. Third, I have down, these are in no particular order either. It's just kind of, I know some of you like AP Classroom, some of you don't. Some of you like Khan Academy, some of you don't. So I'm just trying to give you some options here. AP Classroom, I did unlock all of the progress checks. So if you like to practice that type of stuff for other classes, you might consider doing that for this class. Again, it's completely optional. It's not tied to your grade, but good idea. Same with Khan Academy. If you go and just take their unit test, it should give you some pretty quick feedback about what it is you don't remember. And then looking back at our classroom tests, you can come in during advisory to look at those. Some suggestions about things to do before the AP test. Some of those are important that I don't talk about every day because there's a million different things, but one of them's like making sure your calculator's in radian modes. If your calculator was in degree mode, that could, even if you figure it out during the test, you might waste a bunch of time. So I'm not going to read those things to you, but some suggestions to do during the test. Okay, and then there's a page that says common FRQ types. So I think you guys would probably agree with me that FRQs is probably the best use of your time for practice. Because if you can do FRQs, then you can do the same skill type questions in multiple choice. And I didn't do all the research to this, but I did type it up to make it look a little bit nicer. So what I'd like you to get out of this page is for you to see that there are some type of FRQs that are very common. So the one that we have spent some class time on is type 3, graph analysis. So notice it was, well, actually, I take that back. They may call that something different. But type 1, rate and accumulation, notice there's one in 2002, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 17. Almost every year there's one of those type of FRQs. So if I was you, I would pull one of them up at some point. If you feel comfortable with them, maybe delay it. And if you're not sure, try one. And if you realize that's a weakness, there's a bunch of them for you to practice right there. Linear motion is like when you have a particle that moves, you know, left and right, up or down. You usually give them like velocity and asked about position or acceleration. You've done some of those before. I don't know what the others are. Differential equation and slope fields. You had one like that on your 2022. Some of you guys did that one. Tables with Riemann sums and area and volume. So I'm trying to help organize some of that. So if you know there's one of those that you're weak on, you've got a lot of good opportunities to practice those. And to convince you that if you're solid on these type of FRQs, then you're probably going to feel way more comfortable with the FRQs you see on your actual AP test. So that page is pretty important, I think. Any questions with that? You notice how some of them have a C next to them?
Yeah, what's that mean?
What do you think it means?
Calculator.
Those are calculators. So for us, the last several years, FRQs 1 and 2 have been calculator, but several years ago, I think the first 3 used to be calculator. So sometimes number 3 is a calculator. And I typed up some directions on how you guys can find these, because I wasn't going to make 300 different bit.ly links for these. But Google search, you can find them, you can find the scoring, you can find videos that go over them. I think you guys know how to do that. But the next page, I actually just found this the other day, this week, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Someone, I don't know how far back they went, but they organized all of the FRQs up to last year and arranged them by difficulty. Difficulty meaning lowest average. So, were y'all the class that asked what the lowest average was? Okay, it might have been the other class then. But you can see on here, 2007 FRQ 3, out of 9 points, the average was 0.96, which is almost half of second place. The second part. I had to pull that one up the other day just to work it. I was just curious.
Yeah, what do you think?
I wouldn't have gotten all 9 points my first try, but you guys could get all 9 points on it. Part of it is I don't think many of you guys are going to pull it up and try it, but like first part was intermediate value theorem. The second part was mean value theorem. The third part was fundamental theorem of calculus. That was the easiest part, I think. And then the fourth part had to do something with inverse functions. So that just kind of depends on what you remember about inverse functions. Like if a point has a function 1, 2, then its inverse has a point 2, 1. Like you have to remember that kind of stuff. But
Was it calculator or no calculator?
that was, it was no calculator. Actually, let me just see. I might still have it pulled up. Yeah, here it is. They gave a table with a bunch of useful information, but also a lot of unuseful information. So they give you a function h, explain why h has to be -5 sometimes, explain why its derivative has to be -5 sometimes, find the derivative of this at 3, don't forget chain rule, and then part D had an inverse function part. So I mean, it's definitely a hard FRQ, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be when I saw that average.
See, I wouldn't have been able, like, I wouldn't be able to do that fast enough, like, in the time. Like, that'd be my thing. If I could sit there and stare at it for a long time, maybe I could get.
Yeah. Anyway, this particular one's not that important, but and time is certainly
Yeah.
a challenge. So I don't know if this page is useful to you, but if you're looking for a challenge, then you could certainly go try some of those hardest ones and see how you do. And then within this document, I refer to making sure that you have the stuff memorized that you need to have memorized. So like the derivative of trig functions. You know, you probably know sine and cosine because you use those all the time. I think most of you know tangent. I hope you know tangent. But the other three you don't use much. And they're not as likely to be on the AP exam, but they are on there. So these last couple pages just have some of that stuff that you definitely want to have memorized. So fundamental theorem of calculus, part 1, part 2, how to know if something's speeding up, slowing down. Again, I would read through that and just make sure that all of that makes sense to you, and if something stands out, you might highlight it and then review it the night before the AP test. So anyway, that's just for you. There's no work to be done on that, but if you don't know what to study, I think that is a good go-to. Okay, anything I can answer about that page, that handout? Okay, then moving on. So next up, I would like to do a couple more mock exam questions, and I've already asked you to do 3 of these. You should have already done 4, 6, and 10 in class one day. I have not asked you to do 11, 19, or 29. So I'm going to give you 3 more minutes because that's 3 more non-calculator questions. Again, you should already have 4, 6, and 10 done. So I'd like you to do 11, 19, and 29. That's typed up there. 2 minutes apiece, so 6 minutes total because that's what you should average on the AP test. And then I'd like to go over those questions. Next to each of those questions, I have the percent of students that got it right that did the mock exam. So again, those are all strategic. Not random questions, they're ones that I think that you guys will feel much better about after we go over them. I think it's a good review. So I'm setting the timer now. And if you did the mock exam already, you already have those done, so you could just take a few minutes to look at some of your other questions. Hello? Sure. Thank you. Allie, you're checked out. looks like from the outside. Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
So Rosemary. Let's see. This. Okay, try to refresh and see if it shows anything different.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, and stop. That was 6 minutes. So let's go over these. Again, 4, 6, and 10 you guys did for me the first time. So those have been done for a while, but go back to question 4. And it looks like 43% of the students. You had started 122, which was a circuit over integration, and it was just the more basic integration, no U substitution needed. So I would like you to finish that up, and if you don't finish that up, then I need you to do that for homework between now and Thursday. Being able to do basic integration is going to be mixed in all of your multiple choice and your FRQs. So, you know, unless you have a calculator, which is only half of it, you've got to be able to integrate. So I would like you to finish that, and give me just a minute, and I will open it up in Google Classroom, so those of you that are almost done can turn it in and then not have to worry about it. And then if you finish in class, I would like you to start on 127, which was a new circuit on U substitution. That one is not due next Tuesday. The only one that's due next Tuesday is the one that you should already have about halfway finished, and I'm giving you more time on it.
What was your 14?
Eventually, I will ask you to complete the U substitution one. So
Right, and you got 4 times.
move on to that if you're done with 122.
15.
And in just a second, I'll come around and help.
Bro, I put 14 there too.
Oh, you just put it, okay, so just put it. Yeah, it looks like this. So, and then 6.
Yes, ma'am.
122 isn't in the handout.
Let's do it.
It should be.
So, I forgot how to do it. That's not the do. Oh, you're right, it is integration. So it's 3 ln x squared e.
But then I don't know how to do that.
And then e squared. Oh, we know that this one equals 1.
I just ran out of tabs.
So like 3 ln e squared minus 3. And then e squared.
What is it, 122?
Yes, there are 2 places.
Three?
Maybe it's e.
Yes. ln e is 1.
There's 1.
Square root of 1.
What did you say?
Well, then you get
No,
0.
you e. Because e times e equals e squared.
Yeah.
So it'd be 3e minus 3.
Huh?
Yeah, that's not good. So. How would you, what is ln or natural log of e squared? Is it e?
It's 2.
It's what? It's two?
2.
Oh.
Because natural log is like e to the, so like the natural log of 1 would be e to the blank equals 1.
Right.
So the natural log of 2 is e to the second. So it would be e to the second.
I didn't hear your question.
Natural log of e squared.
Well, you remember this property about logarithms? An exponent on something you're taking the log of can come down.
Oh yeah, I do not remember that.
6 times e minus 3. So 6 times 3 is 3. Okay. Got it.
Okay, so this 122, which is going to be homework if you don't finish in class, is now in Google Classroom. So if you finish it and avoid having homework on it, please go ahead and just take pictures and turn it in. That way you don't accidentally lose it and have to redo it. 122 though, I think. Unless I
Yeah, I think you might mess it up.
Okay, so 17.
Mine.
I'm getting.
natural log of 2e to the 5th.
Yeah.
Oh, that's only us.
She told me about how she used to do CPAP.
It's the same thing with Brittany Barker.
Yeah, so 5. Or would you bring it down in front of the 2? In front of the
Oh, okay, so you're doing the substitution. Problem is, when you do it this way, like, this doesn't fit this logarithm property.
Yeah.
Like, if the 2 wasn't there, then you could just pull the 5 down up front. But since the 2's not to the 5th, you can't do that. So instead of doing u substitution on that one, go like that, I think.
Yeah, it's 1 over 2.
Just pull the 1/2 out, because it's just a constant.
Oh, yeah, that's what I did.
And then 1 over x is natural log.
Oh.
So it's not that you were doing anything wrong, it's just that you were kind of hitting with, like, seeing how to simplify it didn't make sense.
Okay.
Wait, so how did you say that? Like, how did.
You just
Are you
He-
using
the
u
one half on the
substitution?
You
outside.
just
No.
pull off the 1/2 and just do 1/2 times 1 over u.
But where'd you get the 1/2?
Because it's 1 over 2 u.
Oh! Okay.
I would not use u substitution on any of these. All of these are u substitution, like the more advanced one. These all should be the easier version, so don't do u substitution. Did anyone figure out the daily meme though?
No, I didn't get it.
It's under the root section.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, the real, like, square root or something?
Yeah, so it's square root.
Okay. 5 halves and then
I don't know. I'm like,
you put 1/2 on the outside.
oh, so you like,
So then I'm just left with this 1 over 8. So that's 0. That's what
The problem with what you're doing there is chain rule. If I took the derivative of what you had, you'd bring the power down, so those would cancel out and give you
Yeah.
1, which is what you wanted. Lower the power by 1, which would give you 1/2, which is where we just switch
Is that 2.5?
of this, but then you have to times by negative 2x because of the.
I got 5 halves.
What did you do out here?
If you do that, then it's like a quotient little problem. That one stumped me at first too. You know what this graph looks like?
I don't remember.
Well, is it 16 minus x squared?
Yeah.
Okay, well what does that equal when x is 0?
When x equals 0?
Yeah.
4.
What about when x is 4?
What about 4a squared? You
Four is-
plug 4 in,
Yeah.
it'd be 0.
What if you plugged in negative 4?
Plug 4a into 1 over 2x squared. You get 16a squared.
It's a semicircle. So you're really just trying to find,
16.
think of it as area under a curve now.
Yes, whatever.
It's half of a circle. That's the only way to do that one. Are you numbering your gloves?
Yeah. Is that right?
Oh, I don't know. It's just, on 14 you need to try to make a graph, I think. Get stuck on anything else? You don't know what
Yeah.
you can take the derivative of here, squared. It's good that you're struggling because you're not supposed to know that. There's not a easy way. You can still work it because look at the balance. What's that, 3, 5, 4? And that's, so then we still answer anyway. Yeah, think of it as area. Like it starts at 3 pi over 4 and it ends at 3 pi over 4. It's not opening up to making it. So it's making you think that you need to integrate, but you don't at all. Now, if those bounds weren't the same, then yeah, then you would be stuck and you'd have to have to calculate it. Right. You okay? The problem with this one is because there's gonna be some chain rule, and it's not gonna work out nicely. So this one, like the other one I was talking about, you need to think about what this graph
Maybe
is.
that's an answer.
That would be a semicircle.
Which one was 2 for you?
No. I'm just getting a squared.
Radius 3.
Okay, so that's what I
What did you?
So just do half
A squared
of the area
minus
of the
a
circle.
minus a squared minus a.
You can't integrate that by hand, but you can still figure out what it's
No,
gonna
a
equal by
squared
thinking about
minus
what
a
visual area.
minus a plus a. You just strip the negative.
Is that the semicircle?
So a squared minus a minus a squared
The
plus
graph
a.
is
A
very.
squared.
I was drawing in the
Oh, 'cause it's negative.
And then you just shift.
Just negative 2a.
Negative squared. On the back of that page.
I hate circuits.
you use this for the rest of it.
There's 3A.
I don't know what you
Yeah,
said.
it would be 3A because- Yeah, it's 3A, okay.
Can't you just turn it in and like,
No, I'm not gonna, like, I just checked out.
why?
Because I'm going to a funeral.
Oh, okay. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Wait, just let me put it in there.
Okay.
Would it be negative five?
Don't worry though, I'll still take my quiz eventually.
It's like 2 minus 7.
Yeah, there's a whole list of stuff to do.
Oh, wow. That's fun. Cute. Here, there you go. Yep, it is. I can move it back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I got it. Wait. And then, because we're done.
But the first one was so smart.
Yeah, so it's not right. Wait, so, oh, is it because you have 3? You do 3x? Oh yeah, you have to do 8, no. You have to do 2 minus negative 3 plus 3x. And then you integrate 5 and 0.
Oh yeah, but you
So
can
you
even
get
like the size, he's
5
really smart, I
plus
always need help.
15 minus.
You grab the handout?
Yes. What is the, let's do. Is that the circuit we started?
Today is the mini quiz and the thing I just checked.
Yeah.
By next
Wait,
class,
what's this?
the 122. So that's the one
That's the one I
you
started a while ago.
Yes, you started at this until you finish it. So
Yeah, that's the
you're gonna have more class time, and then that would be your homework. Then there's another circuit you picked up.
Oh,
Start on
15.
it.
I got 15 as well.
Okay, we don't have a mini quiz next class. Oh, you sound disappointed.
Hey James, which one do you want?
Well, 119, the answer got.
A little bit each word.
Oh,
Just
okay.
decide
We're
what
on the
you-
last one.
And I didn't want to just pick something
Okay.
not important, so.
Don't worry, you still have time.
Yeah, still got a few months left.
Wait, what did you get for 19?
They did
21 over 2.
That's why I was looking for it. It was a minor. I was probably.
You know, how'd you set it up?
Point.
'Cause I got
Thank you, I just made that.
1 over 2 t squared and then I
I
integrated.
tried.
And then I
to-
plugged in like
Yeah,
4a and
tomorrow.
2a as the
For
terms.
people who are like.
Oh, put it,
Okay.
put in 5x for it.
Yeah,
So
that'll
it's
make a
including
difference.
the-
It's actually
Okay.
seniors.
I was very.
Wait, maybe it's just wrong because this is definitely 15. You know.
Oh, you think maybe we should actually go out at worse more?
But then it's like.
No, I just think
if
we, like-
these, like, get someone
it
to
just-
then be borderline, it's like, well, I already
Yeah.
gave a lot of chances, I can't do
Should we
anymore.
ask the chat?
Yeah, I have a question. So, how would we go about number 24?
Well, you gotta use information from over here.
Right, so this would be 2.
Okay,
That would be negative 3. So 2 minus negative 3 is 5.
okay,
And then this would be 3x. This would be 5 plus 3x, then you have to plug in the balance of 5 and 0.
okay,
And then if you do that, you get 20 over here and you get 5. 20 minus 5 is 15.
okay.
But the first answer is 20. Not 15.
Well, maybe something else is wrong. Your reasoning sounds good.
I didn't see 15 as an answer anywhere. So I think that one has to be. No, there's no other 15 anywhere. 15 has to be.
Uh, 2 minus negative 3 is
5.
3x evaluated from 0 to 5 is 15. So what's this other stuff?
No. And then, well, you get 5 plus 3 times 5 is 15. Minus, here, I'll do this.
That's your
Minus 5, what? Then what
This
about
is
0?
5. Well, you only integrated this, so you're only plugging 0 into this. You get 15 minus 0.
Oh, okay.
What?
Okay,
5 on the outside?
that makes sense. So 5.
You did it all right. You
plus-
just added some extra arithmetic randomly at the end.
Okay. Got it. So looks like this.
Okay, you guys have about
Because you're not
2 minutes.
integrating.
So you should find a stopping place.
So you have to
Make sure that you know to finish up 122 for those homework points. There is no mini quiz next class. I just couldn't decide and get something planned in time, so a little bit less homework, except that you probably should pick something about the AP test to start practicing. So not necessarily for the grade, but just to kind of move you in the right direction. And I need your mock exams back, so once you find a stopping place and you get the calculator and stuff put up, please start putting those back in your folder. Remember, you're not allowed to take those with you.
You're just trying to run the class or next
Huh?
the circuit?
Can I turn it in now?
The 122
Yeah.
and Google Classroom, yeah.